About 1998, I was talking with a guy named John Duckworth, and we were kicking around ideas for shows. And they were all pretty good, but there was one that caught my eye, and it was an Easter carol. And it was just a couple of lines, but it said Ebenezer Nezer, runs a factory making plastic Easter eggs, but his perception of Easter is as hollow as the empty plastic eggs that come out of his factory. And that was, about it. And he thought that Bob the Tomato could be Bob Cratchit, and, Junior could be Tiny Tim.
And God blessed us, everyone!
But the problem has always been, how do you take something that's so well known as A Christmas Carol and make it new and exciting? How do you put your own spin on it, but yet remain true to the original source material? Because the Christmas Carol is a beautiful piece of literature. It's very faith-based.
I was amazed with how powerful it was. I had tears in my eyes by the end of it, just seeing the redemption of this man's life.
I've seen what life would be like without the hope of Easter, and believe me, you don't want to go there.
One of the things about telling the Easter story was the whole idea of telling the story of Jesus, because early on we made the decision not to portray Jesus as a vegetable.
So how do we tell the story of Easter if we can't portray Jesus as a vegetable, which was VeggieTales rule number 1 from the very beginning? And so, way back in, it was late 97 or early 98, we had a brainstorming session, and we were just throwing around ideas, and somebody threw out, what if we tell the story through stained glass windows? I remember going home that day thinking, we just solved the puzzle. So once we settled on an Easter carol, because we're going to tell the Easter story, in the setting of Dickens' London, then all of a sudden light bulbs went on. And we said, well, then we can do a new Christmas special too. And since we have to build London once, we can do both of these, really create these two stories together to bookend each other, the beginning of the story with Christmas and the end of the story with Easter, using the same characters in the same settings, and it becomes, really a two-part story that should be taken together.
There's a story that started on Christmas, when a baby was born in the night.
We were in the middle of Jonah and developing the Christmas show and Easter Carol at the same time.
Well, actually, the script had been around a long time, way before the Star of Christmas.
So it was interesting trying to change the original concept for Easter, the Easter Carol, that is, to fit in with the Star of Christmas. Because originally, Bob and Larry were going to have a different role in the Easter Carol. Bob was running this whole huge factory by himself originally, and then since we had partnered them in, as the writing duo in the Star of Christmas, we decided to let them both work in the factory together, and which is great because they make a great team.
It actually was in production during parts of Jonah. We I jokingly call it, we were making it under the belly of the whale. I think probably the Easter show had more animators working on it than any other show that VeggieTales has ever made, including Jonah.
What?
In a nutshell, there would be guys that did the first layout on the shot, so we determine all the camera angles, how we're going to view that shot so we can plan it. And then the animators will animate the characters and the bucket that they're in, for instance, and things like that. And then we turn it over to the effects guys, and the effects guys will go through that shot and add the explosions, the fire, the brick material flying out in every direction, and just put that all together.
Oh, we made it!
When we came up with the idea to tell the Easter story through the stained glass windows, it occurred to me that the best way to do it, rather than just with a dry narrator, would be to do it in song. Then that song became vitally important. If the song was really going to tell the story within the story, that was the reason for the whole thing, it needed to be more than just me, Mr. Lunt warbling away. We had also settled on the idea of a music box angel. This little angel character that would come to life out of a music box and be the visitor.
We wanted to have Rebecca St. James do Hope in this show, and that was kind of a concept that occurred early on.
Ding, 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 give the man a prize.
I've recorded a few little animation pieces, but nothing like VeggieTales. And so when I heard through our office in Nashville that Phil and the gang at VeggieTales were interested in me being involved in a role. I was so excited.
Come on, let's get going. We've got some ground to cover.
One of the things that I like about her is her feistiness. She's just really, she's got attitude, probably a little more attitude than I have in real life, but I can be feisty. But she also is, I think, sensitive. You know, Neza, at a few points, is really vulnerable, and she's gentle with him.
She was just so wonderful to work with and so enthusiastic about doing the show. And then when we went into the recording session, she just really did a marvelous job, and it came out wonderfully.
Oh, you're not a miser or a Scrooge or anything like that. You just don't see what's right in front of you. I'm used to being in the studio doing music, but not so much, you know, doing voiceovers for angels. So it's a very new experience, but very exciting experience.
Your
worst nightmare. Oh, I've always wanted to say that.
You're the visitor.
Ding, ding, ding. Give the man a prize. Perhaps you aren't as dense as they say.
Because we were setting this in England, and she's an Australian performer, she could do the accent without having to fake it.
I could really rely a lot on my Australian heritage and Australian accent, but I really had to kind of pull out a lot of British accent as well, and it was very fun because it's really going back to my roots. There's a line in the movie where I tell Neza that he's a first-class stinker, and I really love that because I can pull out the English Australian accent and just kind of get really feisty with it. So that's my favorite line.
Rebecca is very intuitive in delivering emotion with her songs. That was the way I communicated with her, not to try to tell her exactly how to say something, but what emotion she needed to convey. This is the heartfelt moment between you and Nezer.
Okay.
Take it when you're ready.
It is really fun being another character and really trying to pull out, you know, of your own experience and then of other voices that you've heard what that character needs to be. It's a very fascinating process.
They're talking about the hope of Easter. The hope of Easter changes everything.
It's a very, just a very intimate Christian message. And so it's actually a little special to everybody that worked on the show.
Easter is the story that's closest to my heart that I've done since I've been a Big Idea. I think just because it's so incredibly deep in its faith orientation. It was a very careful line to tread because we've got vegetables speaking about something that we hold as eternal truths, and you have to balance the silly and the sacred, but I think we pulled it off. I really do.
Today I'm going to show you the art of stained glass and how we make a stained glass window from start to finish. We start with the design, and first of all, down here I'm showing you our scale drawing, and then we pick out the glass and show the colored sketch of how it's going to look when it's done. It's almost like doing a puzzle. So once I have the scale drawing, I have to trace this and make another copy, and then we actually will cut out a pattern piece for each one of these pieces, and the artist will cut the glass to fit the shape. And when we come to a point, you need a line coming off of it, because if I cut this background piece in one, eventually the stress of it will crack this. We've actually got this one partially started, and after we have our pattern drawn, then we cut a pattern piece for each piece, and this is out of a mylar so that we can grind with this. And a piece of glass will be cut to match each pattern piece. We use a cutter with an oil, and then you follow the pattern that we've put on the glass as closely as possible, because whatever you don't cut close, you're going to have to grind off. We do have different tools that we can use for breaking the glass. This is called the running pliers. And go around the whole piece and cut each shape. One more cut, and then we'll have this one ready for grinding, and I'll show you what we do next. So it's basically to the shape, but you can see it's not quite perfect yet. So then I'm going to take it over to the grinder. This is the grinder, and here I'm going to grind the edges of the glass so they fit perfectly into the window. And this is used with water. And once we have all the edges ground, we can go ahead and put this into our window. And so we fit it into the channel. And then we use a lead. This is an example. They come in 6-foot lengths. And you can see it's kind of like a U shape. And then each piece of glass is wrapped with a channel of lead, and it has to fit snugly. And then we have a cane cutter here, and this is going to cut the cane. and then it'll be put into the window. But now I'm going to do this side also. It just kind of wraps around your piece. And then this will be put into our window. And then I've got some nails here and a hammer. And this will hold it in place while I'm working on the other pieces. After we have all of our pieces cut and the lead applied, we use something called flux. It's a chemical that's going to bond the solder to the lead, and you brush it on the seam. And then when we use the solder, that's really the glue that holds this whole window together. And after I've soldered the whole window, we're going to take a glazing compound and put it underneath every channel, and it actually has a cement in it, and that's what's going to make this window stronger so that when you hold it up, it's going to stay together. Then when you're finished, you can put it up in the window and just enjoy it every day of your life.
Stained glass started in the Middle Ages in terms of it being used in architectural settings. Early on during the what's called the Romanesque period, walls were very thick, windows were small, so that the interiors were pretty dark. The inventions of the flying buttress allowed the walls to be opened up so that greater light could come in. They could put these windows in greater number, and that's when the stained glass window was used as an architectural device as well as decorative and a device for teaching. Because these are really ways for the unlearned especially to understand the gospel, understand their own history, because all of this was in the stained glass windows. It's important to remember that all of the Gothic cathedrals were oriented east to west. The west was the main entrance, and the east was the place of the altar. On the south side, you have a lot of imagery related to the New Testament. As the sun moves around, it's kind of a revealer of different episodes, especially on the south and the west side. Light constantly shifts and changes, so that in a sense it dissolves the permanency of the architecture. Stained glass in the walls transforms the interior light. This combination of almost gem-like color inside the church was kind of serving a lot of purposes in terms of mood. One of the things that impressed me so much about the symbol of light was how it appears as one of the most important ideas in the Old Testament in the first part of Genesis. The first thing that's given to us as part of the Creator's energy of what he makes is light. And so he makes light, and then in the Gospel of John, John refers to Christ as the light. So this idea of light being significant portrayal of Jesus Christ himself becomes important as a way for us to experience this viscerally. I think it's a great communicator of an idea that's pretty hard to get a hold of. The fact that we know Christ is light, and this is demonstrated for us in stained glass.
Most of our veggie characters are pretty well established. We know what they look like, and all we do in concept really is add the costumes to them. But in the case of Easter, we had a brand new character, Hope. She had arms, and she had a little skirt-like dress that was part of the egg that she comes out of. So, it's a very unusual character, very different from the normal veggie. And so we went through quite a process of drawing and redrawing sketches until we got the look that we wanted. But it's frequently not enough to just have the sketches. When you go to model a character, build it in CG, it's very helpful to have a maquette. And a maquette really is just a sculpture. It's a clay sculpture of the character, so that the artist doing the modeling in the computer can look at it from any direction, and if they're having trouble getting the hair just right, or the hands, or part of the facial detail, sometimes that is easy to translate out of a drawing and sometimes it's not. So when you build a maquette, they're able to take that, look at it, and keep working an area on their computer until they get it just right. So we decided on Hope. I wanted to do a maquette. I knew a guy that I trusted that would do a really good job at making a maquette. And I'm not sure whether I got what I wanted or not, but at least I got something.
I really hope you like this because I've really spent a long time on it, quite a few days, and as you can see, it may need a little bit more refining, but not much. It's pretty close there. I'll show you a side view. Do you like that? I thought you would. Oh no, man, it went 5 days of work. No, I'll get serious here. Here's Hope. Now, obvious things right off the bat. No hands yet, no necklace, and no wings yet.